Greetings everybody, the second playthrough has been complete, and now it's time for the Assassin recap. Just going to go over my gear, my stats, and my skills, and the whole experience leveling up through all the difficulties with this character. Go take a look at my finds, and then we'll finally spin the wheel and see what class is up next. So let's get started by looking at the stats. I am level 81. I have maxed out resistances. I have, I think, 39 hard points into dexterity, so I can wield the spirit sword. I can actually decrease that now that I have some extra dexterity from my Ravenfrost that I picked up. I have enough strength for the great hauberk that my treachery is in, and the rest is in vitality, which puts my life up to 1277, which is a pretty decent amount, really. As for all of my other stats, I've got a good bit of increased attack speed thanks to treachery and my gloves, and this doesn't actually count the burst of speed either, which adds another 39%. So I'm pretty sure I'm hitting the fastest traveling speed, but I don't know what the breakpoints are, so I'm not certain. I have 85% faster hit recovery. Wow, that's a lot. I got 20 on that. I think I have some on my back. No, I don't know where all that's coming from. I have some on some charms. Whatever. It's somewhere. That's an impressive amount, really. And resistances. My poison resistance, not so good. It's still on the negatives, but nobody really cares about poison resistance in this game. At least I don't. Just drink some antidotes. It's all good. Alright, so the gear. Spirit sword. I mean, what can you say? Spirit sword is great. It's cheap. Easy to make. I put it in a long sword because it has faster base weapon speed than broadswords and crystal swords. Treachery hauberk. Treachery, got the +2 skills. Lore, just plus skills, a little bit of resist. Rhyme, all resist, cannot be frozen, you know. It's a pretty good staple shield for the poor. Got this metal grid amulet, and while I did get a good roll on the attack rating, I did not get a good roll on the all resistance. It can spawn from 25 to 35, and I got 26, so that's a pretty freaking terrible roll. But it's still helpful. Boots. I crafted these in Act 5. They got tri-resistance on them. A little tiny bit of magic fine, but I'm mainly just wearing them for the resistance. Belt. Same thing. It's got some life, some fire resist. Gloves. Increased attack speed. Cold resist. A little bit of mana. That's pretty much it. Got this all resist ring with extra cold and lightning resist. Got the Ravenfrost that I found pretty much at the end of the game. And charms. I got 2 fire resistance charms, 22 and 24%. As you can see, they're both necessary. This is where a lot of my fire resist is coming from. Got a 5 all resist small charm, really nice. 7 MF small charm, also really nice. 6 light res, 2 5 FHRs, they're alright. And this large charm with 24 life and 8 cold res, which is actually pretty nice, because you can think of that as like a 24 to life small charm, which is actually more than you can get on a small charm, and 8 cold res, which the maximum single resistance that a small charm can get is 11, so that's really not too shabby. Worth keeping around. And, oh right, skills. So I've got 1 into all shadow disciplines, except for Venom, because I don't attack with my weapon. And I've got 5 hard points at Shadow Master, with my +5 skills for my gear, brings it to level of 10. I think the 5 points helped it stick around a little bit longer, although I could probably get by just decreasing that to 1, or even omitting Shadow Master, Shadow Warrior, and Weapon Block completely to free up some extra points for more trap damage. I've got maxed out Death Sentry, Lightning Sentry, and Shockweb, and Charged Bolt Sentry is only 2 points away from being maxed out. And that would be with those 2 points, that would bring my Lightning Sentry to the maximum synergy damage. And the only way to get that out further would just be with more plus skills. So what else could I have done with my points? I could have invested into Dragon Talon to get some physical damage, but that requires a good set of boots, at least exceptional boots. I was wearing like some regular rare light-plated boots for the majority of the game until I got these war boots, which are exceptional, and that influences the kick damage. As you can see, the kick damage on these is 8 to 16. The kick damage on these is 39 to 80. Elite boots have even higher kick damage. So really, if I wanted to do kicking, I would just need a good set of boots, a Might Mercenary, and I could just use my Black Flail for the crushing blow. I could also make a Duress for my armor, but Treachery also works just fine. Fade is great for the DR, damage reduction, and of course, the resistances. But I didn't really need to resort to that. But it's always a good option for an assassin. Let's see, my mercenaries got the Rock Stopper, Corpse Mourn, and Insight. I'm actually on the fence about this Corpse Mourn. It does have better defense, but that Iron Maiden when struck was pretty annoying, especially when I was doing Ancients, because it was overriding my lower resist charges. I was using staff with teleport charges on it and a lower resist wand just for utility. Very nice to have. Not necessary, but quite handy. So what else could I have done with my skills? I did have a bit of trouble with lightning immunes. Death Sentry, with its corpse explosion, takes care of lightning immunes quite handily in most cases, provided that you have corpses nearby for it to explode. Otherwise, I would have to rely on my Shadow and Mercenary to tank it and chip it down, and he still has a regular scythe, so his damage is not too great. While I would spam Psychic Hammer just to kind of hold it in place, or Fire Blast, which just does a little bit more damage. And either way, I could have forfeited some of my Synergy bonus to Lightning Sentry in order to max out Fire Blast, which would give more shots to Death Sentry. It's not really a big deal, but the additional fire damage on the side, while it does kind of overlap with the Corpse Explosion doing half fire damage, would still be a viable option to take care of lightning immunes. But let's be honest, you can pretty much just skip lightning immunes altogether in this game. The only instance I can think of where you're forced to deal with them is in Travancore, the first one, before you go into the Durance. Half the council members are lightning immune. And Ancients, where at least one of them is going to be lightning immune. Madoc, but I learned that you can break his immunity with level 1 charges of lower resistance. And while it does take a long time to get him down even then, because his resistance is still going to be quite high, it's still doable. So it just depends on how you want to tackle handling lightning immunes. I just went for pure damage on Lightning Sentry, and it still worked out quite fine. So the leveling experience, leveling up through normal, is very easy. All you have to do is put points into Fire Blast until you get Wake of Fire, and then put all of your points into Wake of Fire, and that'll pretty much clear all of normal mode, and even Act 1 of Nightmare pretty easily. Shadow Disciplines, just pick up Cloak of Shadows and Burst of Speed. 1 point in each will do. It's not even strictly necessary for normal mode. Burst of Speed is just handy for getting around. Cloak of Shadows is handy for dealing with dangerous packs of monsters, or just running through areas without getting hassled, especially by ranged enemies. But if you wanted to go pure damage, just dump all of your points into Wake of Fire and Fire Blast. I don't see why you wouldn't be able to do that. Wake of Inferno, I've tried this a little bit in the past, and it just seems like a terrible skill all around. Like, it might have more damage than Wake of Fire, but from a few of the sources I've seen online, the skill might be bugged in the way that it targets and hits enemies and deals damage, just making it less efficient. And, well, Wake of Fire is sufficient enough, so why not just go with that, right? But once you get to Nightmare, you can, and you're around level 40, I would say start pumping Lightning Sentry, and after that, get some Death Sentry. It's handy to get Mind Blast at that point, because you can use Mind Blast to convert enemies to fight on your side for a little while, which, honestly, with that alone, you don't really need the Shadow Master. I did both. I even have Point and Fade. I didn't even need that, so I could have saved 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I could have saved 9 points here and put them into traps, or even kicking. You know, that's another alternative strategy I could have done, was maxed out Dragon Talon with maybe maxed out Venom, Shadow Master, and Death Sentry. And I could just use Crushing Blow and Venom and some high damage boots with a Might or a Mercenary to take down the first couple of bodies and let Death Sentry clean up the big old crowds while my Shadow is making nice distractions and doing all whatever a Shadow does. But that sounds like an interesting take on the build. But yeah, I mean, this build that I've done right here, which is just straight lightning traps, is pretty much just easy mode, really. I didn't have much trouble at all. Alright, so let's take a look at the finds. As for the best finds on this character, I found some really, really good runes. An Ohm rune from, what was it, Nightmare Bale's Minions Wave 2, Akmel the Cursed. He dropped the Ohm rune for me. I think it was him, or it was one of his minions. I found 2 Ists and a Mal. 1 Ist and 1 Mal from Hell Countess while I was doing that. The other Ist dropped for me in Act 5 off a chest. And the rune is from, if I remember correctly, Nightmare Forge. That is not a bad haul at all, right there. I found Bariza do Kianan. I think I got this in the Hell Forgotten Tower, just from a random enemy. I don't know. I was kind of annoyed that this dropped for the character right after my assassin, because this is probably one of the best crossbows you can get. I mean, just look at it. It's got a lot of damage on there. It's got increased attack speed up the booty hole. It's got lots of piercing attack. It's even got some freeze target on there, some dex, and some defense for whatever reason. Cold damage. It's just pretty good. I've heard that this is like one of the only crossbows worth using, really, and I can see why. But maybe I'll give that a try at some point down the line with my Amazon. And I found the Superior Archon Plate with really high base defense and 13% enhanced defense. So that's going to be a great rune base. I don't know what I'm going to use it for. I don't know if I'm going to Larzuk it or use the cube recipe to gamble away the amount of sockets on there, but it's definitely worth hanging on to. And this is just all the other junk that I found. At least all the stuff that I didn't already have in my collection. So, yep. That's about it. That is about it. There's some other stuff here. Again, just whatever. Oh yeah, and as far as like the best finds, I would also place some of these charms in here, like the All-Res, the 5 All-Res, the 7 MF. This small charm's pretty good. Or I mean this large charm. It's pretty good. Yep. Oh, and the Ravenfrost and the Metal Grid, also pretty good. Yeah. That's it. Joanna is complete for now. And it's time to move on to the next character.
Bye.
Alright, it's everybody's favorite time. I don't know, it's kind of like my favorite thing now. I like spinning the wheel. 5 more classes. What's it gonna be for playthrough number 3? Let her spin. Yes! Necromancer! Yes, my other favorite class. Sweet. Oh yeah, this is gonna be a fun one.